If you want to succeed in life, it all starts with your mindset. How you think shapes what you do every day and where you end up tomorrow. But changing the way you think isn't always easy. It takes clear choices, steady habits, and the courage to push through fear and setbacks. In this video, I'll share simple but powerful steps you can take right now to build a mindset that leads to real success. You'll learn how to set clear daily goals, handle challenges with strength, and keep growing even when things get tough. This isn't about quick fixes or empty motivation. It's about honest, practical actions that anyone can take, no matter where they are in life. Stick with me because by the end, you'll see how small changes in your thinking can open the door to better days, stronger confidence, and a future you shape with your own hands. If you're ready to stop feeling stuck and start moving forward, this is for you. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Take full responsibility for everything in your life. If you want to change your life, the first and most important step is to take full responsibility for it. Not partial responsibility, not responsibility when it feels good or when things go right, but full, unwavering, uncomfortable, total responsibility. Every choice, every reaction, every delay, every failure, every win, all of it. Because the moment you do that, you take back your power. You stop waiting for someone else to fix your situation. You stop blaming the past, the people around you, or the circumstances you were handed. You realize that your life is in your hands. Not someday, not when you're more prepared, but right now. This is where real change begins. There is something quietly powerful about a person who stops pointing fingers. You can see it in their eyes. It's a kind of calm control, a steady confidence that doesn't come from luck or good fortune. It comes from ownership. When you accept that where you are today is a result of your own thoughts, actions, and habits, you immediately open the door to becoming someone stronger. No more waiting, no more excuses, no more hoping someone will come along and do it for you. From this point forward, you're in charge. And that truth can either feel terrifying or liberating. If it feels terrifying, keep reading. If it feels liberating, use it. Either way, it's the beginning of your transformation. Responsibility isn't about guilt. It's not about punishing yourself for mistakes or reliving regrets. It's about clarity. It's about understanding what you control and what you don't, and putting your energy into what you do control. You don't control what someone said to you last year, but you control how you carry it today. You don't control the economy, but you control how you react to change. You don't control your childhood, but you control the story you tell yourself about who you are now. The more you understand this, the more your mindset shifts from victimhood to leadership, from passive acceptance to purposeful action. Most people walk through life believing that they are products of what happens to them. They carry old wounds like permanent labels. They let other people define their worth. They hand over their happiness to chance, thinking, maybe one day I'll catch a break. That kind of thinking is dangerous. It keeps you stuck. It convinces you that success is about luck or privilege or someone else's approval, but that's not how it works. Real success, the kind that lasts, the kind that feels earned, comes from taking responsibility for every inch of your life, even the parts you didn't choose. You can't grow if you don't own your story. You can't fix what you refuse to admit is yours. If you want to become mentally strong, emotionally stable, and consistently focused, you have to stop waiting to be rescued. You have to start thinking in terms of decisions, not circumstances. The question isn't why did this happen to me? The better question is what am I going to do with it now? That is how powerful people think. They don't ask for an easier life. They learn to be better at life. And make no mistake, this takes courage. It takes guts to admit that you've been standing in your own way. It takes humility to say, I could have done better. It takes maturity to stop shifting blame, but that courage is the doorway to change. When you stop defending your limitations, you finally create space to grow beyond them. You stop hiding behind bad habits and start building better ones. You stop waiting for someone to understand you and begin understanding yourself. Start small. Look at your daily routine and ask yourself what you're allowing. Are you constantly distracted? Are you numbing your stress with things that don't help you long term? Are you avoiding difficult conversations or decisions? Are you lying to yourself about how committed you really are? Be honest, brutally honest. Because responsibility isn't just about the big things. It lives in the small choices you make every day. What time you wake up, how you speak to people, how you respond when things don't go your way. These moments build your life. Own them. If you're unhappy, that's your signal to change, not to complain, not to wait, but to change. Because if you don't take ownership of your dissatisfaction, you'll keep trying to escape it with temporary solutions. You'll chase distractions instead of direction. You'll stay in cycles that drain you instead of making bold choices that stretch you, and you'll call that life. But life doesn't have to feel like that. It becomes better when you become better. When you stop blaming and start building. When you stop explaining and start improving. There is real power in saying, I am where I am because of me. It might hurt at first. It might sting. But that pain is a signal that you're waking up. It means you're no longer pretending. And from that place of honesty, you can begin to take action. Because now you know it's in your hands. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need everyone's support. You need commitment. You need discipline. And you need to show up every single day, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when no one is watching. The people who change their lives are the ones who stop arguing for their limits. They get tired of their own excuses. They get fed up with their own patterns. And in that moment of frustration, they stop trying to fix the world and start fixing themselves. That's when things shift. Because the only thing you ever truly control is yourself. And the more you take responsibility for yourself, your time, your energy, your focus, your words, the more powerful you become. Responsibility also brings peace. Because when you stop waiting for people to apologize or make things right, you take back control of your peace. When you stop needing everything to go a certain way to feel okay, you create a steady kind of strength. You become more adaptable, more grounded, more resilient. And that doesn't mean you won't face pain or setbacks. It means you'll know how to handle them, because you've built yourself from the inside out, not the outside in. Every excuse you use is a prison you live in. If you say, I can't do that because of my past, you stay stuck in your past. If you say, I would change if I had more time, you waste the time you have. If you say, I'm not responsible because someone hurt me, you give your power to the one who hurt you. Stop. You deserve better than that, and better begins when you take ownership of everything. Even the things that weren't your fault, because now they're your responsibility to grow from. You cannot lead others until you learn to lead yourself. And leadership starts with responsibility. It starts with holding yourself to a higher standard, even when no one is holding you accountable. It starts with making decisions based on who you want to become, not who you've been. It starts with telling the truth about what you're avoiding and choosing to face it. Every time you do that, you become stronger, more capable, more trusted, more respected by others and by yourself. This is not about being perfect. It's about being real, real enough to admit where you've fallen short, real enough to start over when necessary, real enough to stop hiding behind anger or blame and say, I want more for myself, and I'm willing to work for it. That kind of mindset doesn't develop overnight, but every time you practice it, you get closer to becoming the kind of person who creates results instead of waiting for them. Taking responsibility also means refusing to shrink. It means not lowering your standards just because others do. It means keeping your promises, especially the ones you make to yourself. It means owning your energy, your choices, your reactions. And when you slip up, as everyone does, it means owning that too, not with guilt, but with learning. You don't need to beat yourself up. You just need to ask, what will I do differently next time? That question, asked often and answered honestly, will change your entire life. Responsibility is freedom. The more you accept, the more you're free to grow. You're not weighed down by blame. You're not stuck in old stories. You're not distracted by resentment. You're focused, clear, accountable. That is how progress happens. And not just once in a while, but every day, through small decisions that build momentum. You won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel confident, but you can always choose to take responsibility, even when you're tired, even when things go wrong, even when you feel like giving up. Because that choice builds something inside you. It builds character. It builds trust in yourself. And over time, that trust becomes a quiet strength that no one can take from you. The truth is, you are more capable than you think, but you'll never access that potential if you keep avoiding responsibility. So stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting for someone to tell you what to do. The power is in your hands. Use it, claim it, take it seriously, because your future depends on what you do today, not tomorrow. Not when it's easier, but now. Start with one area of your life. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your finances, maybe it's your relationships. Ask yourself, am I taking full responsibility here? Am I owning my choices, or am I making excuses? Then do one thing, just one thing, to take control. Not next week, today, and tomorrow. Do it again, and again, and again. That's how real change happens. One decision at a time, one honest action at a time, one day at a time. You were not born to be helpless. You were not built to stay stuck. You were designed to grow, to overcome, to lead yourself with strength and clarity. And it all starts with taking full responsibility for everything in your life. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Because you deserve the life you're capable of creating. And the path to that life begins with this decision. Own it, live it, be the person who doesn't wait, doesn't blame, and doesn't back down. Be the person who takes full responsibility and builds a life that reflects it. Chapter 2. Build clear daily goals that guide your actions. Every day you wake up is a blank page, and what you write on it determines the direction of your life. The way you begin your morning, the choices you make before the world gets loud, and the tasks you focus on, these are the threads that weave the pattern of your future. Without daily goals, you drift. You get pulled in 100 directions, reacting instead of creating, moving without meaning. But when you begin each day with intention, specific, clear, grounded goals, you give your life shape, you give it direction, you take control of what matters most. Most people wake up and let the day decide for them. They check their phone, get lost in distractions, and before they know it, the hours are gone. Then comes the frustration, the feeling that nothing is changing, that time is slipping through their fingers. But time doesn't just disappear. It gets spent. The only difference is whether you spend it consciously or waste it unconsciously. This is why daily goals aren't optional. They're essential. They're how you claim your time and shape your direction. They're the proof that you are taking yourself seriously. Clarity is power. If you can't define what you want, you'll never recognize it when it's in front of you. Each morning, you need to know exactly what you're aiming for. Not some vague hope like be more productive or do better. Those don't move you. You need goals that tell your mind what matters right now. What must get done today to bring me closer to who I want to become? What actions will build the momentum I need? You don't need a dozen goals, just 2 or 3 clear ones, chosen with care and followed with consistency. A powerful day doesn't start with pressure, it starts with precision. You sit down, breathe, and ask yourself, what would make today meaningful? The answer won't always be big. Sometimes it's sending that one important email. Sometimes it's doing the workout you said you would. Sometimes it's showing up fully in a conversation. But whatever it is, you write it down. You don't carry it in your head. You bring it into the real world. Writing your goals anchors them. It makes them visible, tangible, real. Your mind takes them more seriously when your hand puts them to paper. Without goals, your actions become automatic, based on old habits and emotional reactions. But when your goals are clear, your behavior changes. You stop doing things just to stay busy and start doing things that actually matter. You stop reacting to distractions and start protecting your attention. Your day becomes a series of decisions that serve your vision, not your impulses. And that's how transformation happens. Not through sudden breakthroughs, but through repeated clarity, followed by focused effort. A common mistake is confusing urgent tasks with important goals. Urgent tasks scream for your attention, but that doesn't mean they deserve it. Important goals are quieter, but they shape your future. When you start your day, ask yourself, am I building or am I just busy? You don't need to do everything. You need to do what matters. Choose goals that stretch you, that require you to grow, that move the needle in your life. Even if it's just one focused effort today, done well and without compromise, it's enough, because it moves you forward. Clear goals also reduce stress. When you know what you're supposed to be doing, you stop wasting energy deciding. You stop overthinking. You move. You act. You trust the plan you created in a calm state of mind. Without goals, your brain is in survival mode all day, trying to sort through endless options and distractions. But with clear goals, your mind quiets down. You know where to place your effort. You know what to ignore. You stop chasing everything and start executing something. You can't improve what you don't define. If your goal is just do your best, you won't know if you're succeeding. But if your goal is read 20 pages today, or complete 3 focused hours of deep work, then you have a target. And when you hit it, you feel a deep sense of progress. That feeling builds confidence. It tells your mind, I said I'd do this and I did. That's how trust in yourself grows, not from big achievements but from daily follow-through. The truth is, without daily goals, motivation fades. You lose direction. You forget why you're working in the first place, but goals reconnect you to your purpose. They remind you that you're building something, even if the results aren't immediate. They remind you that you have control, even when the world feels chaotic. And they remind you that success is not a single moment, it's the result of days well spent, over and over again. Your goals don't have to be complicated, they just need to be specific. Vague goals lead to vague actions, but when you know exactly what you're doing and why, your focus sharpens. You don't need to chase motivation, you've got a clear path to follow, and when you follow that path long enough, even through boredom, even through resistance, your results compound. You start becoming the kind of person who doesn't just talk about change but lives it. At the end of each day, review what you did, not to judge yourself, but to learn. Did your actions reflect your goals? Did you follow through, or did you drift? If you drifted, don't make excuses, make adjustments. Clarity is a daily practice. You don't set goals once and expect them to carry you forever. You revisit them, you refine them, you remind yourself why they matter. That's how you stay aligned with what you're building. A life without daily goals is a life lived by accident. You might stay busy, You might even feel accomplished at times, but you'll look back and wonder what it all added up to. A life with clear daily goals, on the other hand, is a life lived on purpose. You wake up with a reason. You move through your hours with focus. You go to sleep with satisfaction. That's what discipline gives you, not restriction, but fulfillment. The key is not just having goals, but making them a daily ritual. Every morning, before the world reaches you, you reach inside and decide who you want to be that day, what you want to give, what you want to build. It takes 5 minutes to plan your day, 5 minutes that could save you 5 hours of wasted time. That 5 minutes could be the difference between distraction and direction, between going through the motions and living with intention. It's not about being perfect. Some days you'll miss. Some days your goals won't get done. That's fine. Don't let one off day become a pattern. Return to your goals the next morning. Clarity is forgiving. It welcomes you back without punishment. Just don't let yourself drift too long. Don't wait for a crisis to refocus. Make focus your foundation. Make daily clarity a non-negotiable part of your life. When you start living like this, you begin to see the results you used to only imagine. You don't need to overhaul your life in a single leap. You just need to direct your effort every day. Build the habit of setting goals, protecting your time, and following through. Do it when it's exciting. Do it when it's boring. Do it when it feels like it's not working, because the people who succeed are the ones who keep going long enough for their discipline to turn into results. Every day is another chance to move closer to the person you're capable of becoming. Don't waste it in confusion. Don't lose it to distraction. Start each day with clarity, end it with awareness, and carry the quiet power of clear goals into everything you do. That's how you build a life you respect, one day at a time. Chapter 3. Strengthen your discipline by doing hard things daily. Discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you build, one hard choice at a time. It doesn't come from inspiration or excitement, but from effort made when there is no comfort in the moment. Discipline is developed in the exact places most people avoid. It grows every time you feel resistance and choose not to run from it. It gets stronger when you show up without needing to feel like it. Doing hard things daily is how you sharpen your will. You do them not because they're pleasant, but because they shape you into someone you can respect. You train discipline the same way you train your body, by pushing beyond ease. If you never choose discomfort, you never stretch what you're capable of. Hard things are the gym for your mind. When you face them every day, you start breaking through limits you thought were permanent. You realize that effort is not something to fear. It's the entry point to personal power. And when you start proving to yourself that you can do what's hard, even in small ways, you stop doubting your ability to face what matters. Most people wait to feel ready. They believe motivation must come before effort. But motivation is a feeling and feelings come and go. Discipline is a decision. You either make the call or you don't. You either follow through or you excuse your way out. There is no in between. The truth is, the more you wait for the right mood, the more power you hand over to chance. But when you build the habit of doing difficult things regardless of how you feel, you gain freedom, because now your behavior is no longer chained to emotion. Doing something hard every day doesn't mean you need to suffer. It means you deliberately place yourself in situations that require focus, strength, or self-control. You choose what stretches you. That could be saying no to something tempting. It could be pushing through a workout when your body wants to quit. It could be writing a page when your mind wants to scroll. What matters is the consistent practice of resistance. Each moment you choose difficulty over comfort, you upgrade your identity. You go from someone who hesitates to someone who acts. There's no shortcut. You can't read or talk your way into discipline. You have to live it. You build it by putting yourself on the edge of your ability and staying there just a little longer each time. You do the push-ups. You write the email. You clean your space. You face the silence. And each time you complete what you resisted, something inside of you shifts. The mind starts to believe in your follow-through. The body starts to trust that the mind won't back down. And from that point forward, discipline becomes less about force and more about rhythm. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about intention and consistency. Some days you will falter. That's part of it. But what matters is that you come back to the effort the next day. You don't let a bad moment define your pattern. You don't abandon your direction because the last hour wasn't perfect. The disciplined mind forgives quickly, but does not forget its purpose. It refocuses. It rebuilds. And that, more than anything, separates those who succeed from those who surrender. There's something unexplainable that happens when you keep promises to yourself. Your inner voice, the one that constantly evaluates you, starts to soften. You feel a deeper kind of peace. Not the peace that comes from avoiding life's challenges, but the one that comes from knowing you are doing what you should. And that self-respect becomes addictive. You no longer need external rewards. The process becomes enough. The growth becomes the point. That's what daily discipline gives you, the ability to live with your eyes open and your head high. Many people struggle because they only act when it's easy, but ease is not the goal. Strength is, and strength is only built through stress. You must learn to do what's hard with presence. You must build the habit of leaning in when everything inside you says back off. Start with something small. Wake up early when your body wants to sleep in. End your meals when you're no longer hungry, instead of when you're full. Speak the truth when silence would be easier. You don't need to take massive steps. You need to take deliberate ones. As you make this your pattern, life stops feeling overwhelming. You stop fearing hard things because you've trained for them. You know that discomfort doesn't last. You understand that most resistance is mental, and when you face a bigger challenge, something serious, something real, you're ready. You've spent your days preparing through effort. You don't crumble because struggle is familiar territory. That's the gift of discipline. It prepares you for storms by building strength in the sun. Most people want results without sacrifice, but you don't become disciplined by avoiding struggle. You become disciplined by walking straight into it and not turning back. You take your potential seriously. You treat your time like it matters. And you hold yourself to a standard even when no one else is watching. That's how you build trust with yourself. That's how you rise above excuses. And that's how you become someone who doesn't just wish for progress but earns it. You don't need to overhaul your life to start building discipline. Begin with one habit that challenges you, one task that tests your focus or willpower. Repeat it every day for 1 week. Track it, reflect on it, let yourself feel the friction and do it anyway. If you fail, restart the next day without hesitation. Build up your ability to do what you don't feel like doing. Bit by bit, that habit will expand into other areas of your life. And suddenly you'll find yourself choosing strength over comfort without hesitation. People will notice the change in you, not because you speak louder, but because you move differently. There's a calm that comes with self-control. There's a focus that comes from living with intention. And there's a quiet pride that comes from knowing your actions reflect your values. That's what daily discipline does. It makes you solid in a world full of noise. It makes you reliable to others, because you've proven you're reliable to yourself. Discipline doesn't limit your freedom, it creates it. It removes the chaos. It gives your days a clear shape. It lets you say no to what doesn't matter, so you can fully say yes to what does. When you do hard things daily, you free yourself from indecision, regret, and weakness. You begin to live on your terms, and that life, one built on clarity, courage and control, is not out of reach. It's built one day at a time through hard work done without drama. The path forward is simple. Pick something hard today and do it. No discussion, no delay, no negotiation with the part of you that wants comfort. Build the muscle of showing up. Strengthen the habit of effort. Make it who you are. The rest of your life will rise to meet the level of discipline you're willing to create. Chapter 4. Control your thoughts to shape your future self. Your thoughts shape everything you believe about yourself, what you can do and what you think you deserve. The voice in your head is not just a background noise, it is the force behind every decision you make. When you let it run wild, you begin to live by fear, confusion and insecurity. But when you take control of it, you take control of your life. The way you think determines the direction you move. It determines whether you fight or give up, whether you grow or stay stuck, whether you lead yourself or follow the worst parts of your mind. Most people live without questioning the thoughts that pass through their head. They believe whatever pops into their mind. They follow the emotions that come with those thoughts. And slowly they build an identity based on stories that were never examined. But you don't have to live like that. You can choose to slow down and challenge every thought that weakens you. You can ask yourself whether what you're thinking is useful, true, or even yours. Not all thoughts deserve your attention. Many of them were planted by fear, trauma, or other people's voices. You must decide what stays. Every moment you spend lost in thought is a moment you miss the power to direct your life. That's why awareness is everything. You must train your mind to see itself. You must develop the ability to notice what you're thinking before it turns into action. The thoughts you don't control will control you, and over time, repeated thoughts become beliefs. Those beliefs become your reality. This is how people get stuck in patterns for years, because they never stop to realize that their mind is not always telling the truth. You must decide what kind of person you want to become. Then you must train your mind to support that vision. If your goal is to be strong, your thoughts must reinforce strength. If your goal is to grow, your thoughts must invite discomfort. If your goal is peace, your thoughts must lean toward clarity and not chaos. You can't create a future self while holding on to the same thinking that built your past. You must rewire the way you speak to yourself every day. You must replace self-doubt with responsibility. You must replace confusion with clarity. You must replace excuses with focus. When you think about your future, be specific. See yourself acting with discipline. See yourself standing tall under pressure. Picture how you handle stress with grace. Create a mental image so strong that it becomes familiar. The more clearly you hold that vision, the more your mind will look for ways to make it real. Your brain does not distinguish well between imagination and reality. If you repeatedly show it a clear picture of who you want to be, it begins to shift your choices to match that image. This is not magic. This is focus turned into behavior. But thinking is not enough. You must combine thought control with action. You can't just visualize and wait. You must use your thoughts as a compass, then move your feet in the direction they point. Every time you act in alignment with your future self, your belief grows. You start proving to your mind that the vision is real. Confidence is not found. It is earned through repeated action that supports a clear inner picture. That's why mental discipline must be paired with physical effort. One without the other is wasted energy. Thought control is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing how you interpret what happens and deciding what meaning you assign to it. Two people can go through the same setback. One sees failure and quits. The other sees feedback and adjusts. The difference is not in what happened, but in how they thought about it. That's why mindset is everything. If you don't take command of how you explain your life to yourself, your mind will default to weakness, fear, and comfort. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. And once you understand this, you can begin to sort through the noise. You can let go of thoughts that hold you back. You can create space between what you think and what you do. That space is where your power lives. Most of your stress comes from believing thoughts that were never questioned. Most of your limitations come from thoughts you've repeated for so long. They've become part of how you see yourself. But nothing is permanent. The mind can be trained, reshaped, and sharpened. A focused mind is a powerful tool. When you choose your thoughts instead of reacting to them, you become dangerous to every excuse you've ever told yourself. You stop blaming the world. You stop fearing what people think. You stop wasting energy on things that don't move your life forward. You use your mind to build, not to break yourself down. This level of mental strength is not natural. It must be built every day. You must decide from the moment you wake up what kind of mindset you will operate from. Start by setting a mental standard every morning. Remind yourself who you are becoming. Choose 3 thoughts to guide your day. Thoughts that lift you, center you, and strengthen you. Repeat them until they override the noise. Catch yourself when your thinking slips into old patterns. Don't judge yourself. Just redirect. Training your mind is not about perfection. It's about repetition. The more you bring your attention back to your chosen thoughts, the more natural they become. Eventually, this becomes who you are. Emotions will rise. Old habits will try to take over. But if your thoughts are aligned with who you want to be, you won't be shaken by every feeling that comes your way. You'll be able to pause before reacting. You'll be able to stay grounded in moments of stress. And you'll start to notice that you're no longer ruled by impulses or fears that once owned you. That's how you know you're growing. When the things that once triggered you no longer do. This level of control gives you freedom. You stop being a slave to moods. You stop letting small problems throw off your entire day. You stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a leader. And you lead yourself first. With every thought you allow, every reaction you choose, and every word you speak to yourself in silence. That's the discipline of mental strength. Controlling what enters your mind, shaping what stays, and using it all to create the version of you that deserves the life you say you want. You don't have to get it right every time. You just have to care enough to take responsibility for your thoughts. You have to care enough to no longer let your mind be a dumping ground for negativity, doubt, and distraction. You must become a guard at the gate. You must protect your mind like your life depends on it. Because it does. The future you want is already waiting, but it will only reveal itself to the version of you who is mentally clear, focused, and ready to act. That version is built one thought at a time. It is built by filtering every belief and keeping only what serves your growth. It is built by noticing the voice in your head and teaching it to speak with strength. It is built by showing up again and again until the mind begins to trust that you will lead it where it needs to go. You have the power to shape your future, but you must first shape the mind that will carry you there. Choose your thoughts, align them with your values, and move forward with purpose. Chapter 5. Choose growth every time fear tries to stop you. Fear shows up in quiet ways. It disguises itself as hesitation, as overthinking, as the sudden urge to wait. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, telling you to slow down when you should be moving forward. It tries to protect you from discomfort, but in doing so, it also protects you from growth. It convinces you to stay where it's safe, to do what's familiar, to keep the peace even if it means silencing your potential. But you don't grow by playing it safe. You grow by standing up to that voice, seeing it for what it is, and choosing to move anyway. Every time you're faced with a decision that feels heavy, ask yourself which path leads to growth, and which one keeps you the same. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they allow fear to choose for them. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid new opportunities. They avoid being seen trying something they might not be good at yet. But nothing new can begin in your life unless you're willing to do something you haven't done. And that always requires a little bit of fear. If you feel resistance, it usually means you're close to something that matters. The brain is wired to protect you from danger, but it doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a personal challenge. It reacts the same way whether you're being chased or simply speaking in public. You have to train yourself to feel fear and act anyway. That's what growth demands. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Courage isn't loud. It's not about being fearless. It's about taking the next step, even while your voice shakes and your hands tremble. It's about moving into the unknown with intention, instead of hiding behind excuses. The fear of failure holds more people back than failure ever could. But what most people don't see is that every failure carries a lesson, and every lesson makes you sharper. When you choose growth, you agree to fail in public. You accept that you'll look unpolished at first. You understand that mastery doesn't happen in private. It happens in the middle of effort, trial and course correction. Fear wants you to wait until everything's perfect. Growth says start now and improve through action. The sooner you begin, the faster you'll learn what needs to be fixed. You don't need to eliminate fear to move forward. You just need to stop feeding it. Fear grows when you listen to it, when you give it attention, when you allow it to repeat itself without interruption. Every time you back away from something that challenges you, the fear grows louder, but when you face it head-on, when you lean into the discomfort, it starts to shrink. You build confidence, not by thinking positive thoughts, but by doing hard things. Confidence is built through evidence, and the only way to gather that evidence is by choosing growth, over and over again. People who grow the fastest are not the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who try, fail, and try again, without letting fear write their story. They understand that setbacks aren't permanent. They know that rejection doesn't define them. They believe that improvement is possible because they see each experience as part of the path, not a test of their worth. This mindset frees them to act boldly. They stop asking for permission. They stop over-explaining themselves. They stop trying to avoid every awkward moment and instead walk right into it, because that's where growth lives. You have to decide what kind of life you want. If you want comfort, you can stay where you are. You can avoid risk, repeat your days, and keep things predictable. But if you want progress, you have to invite tension. You have to stretch your limits. You have to be willing to be misunderstood, to be challenged, to feel like a beginner again. Growth feels like discomfort. At first, it feels like unfamiliar territory, but over time what once felt impossible becomes your new baseline. That's how you know you're evolving. When the things that once scared you are now part of your normal life, fear tells you to wait until you're ready. Growth teaches you that readiness is built through action. You become prepared by showing up. You learn by doing. You build courage by stepping into the unknown again and again until it becomes familiar. The key is to focus less on the fear itself and more on the outcome you want. What are you willing to feel in order to grow? Are you willing to feel awkward, embarrassed, uncertain? If the answer is yes, you unlock a power most people never access, the power to choose your path, even when it's uncomfortable. Every day presents small choices that shape your future. You can avoid the hard conversation, or have it, and build trust. You can scroll through distractions or face the work that moves you forward. You can say maybe later, or say now matters. Fear tries to convince you that there's always tomorrow, but growth knows that today is all you control. Progress isn't made in leaps. It's made in these exact moments when you feel doubt and still say yes. When you feel hesitation and still step forward. When you feel exposed and still show up. Train yourself to lean toward what feels hard, not away from it. That's how you stretch your limits. That's how you gain strength. Each time you choose the uncomfortable option, you prove to yourself that fear is not your ruler. You take back control. You build the identity of someone who acts in alignment with their highest potential, not their momentary emotion. Over time, this becomes your nature. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop needing extra time. You stop over-preparing. You start moving with clarity and calm, because you've trained for this. Growth doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for movement. It doesn't require that you have all the answers. It just asks that you take the next step. Fear will always have a story. It will always tell you why it's too risky, too late, too soon. But the person you want to become is built by ignoring those stories. You don't change by listening to doubt. You change by taking bold, consistent steps in the face of it. There's no shortcut, no hack, no perfect time. There is only the moment you're in, and the decision you make when fear tries to hold you still. You are capable of far more than your fears allow you to believe. But capability must be proven through effort. You have to step into challenges to see what you're really made of. And the truth is, once you commit to a growth path, you won't want to go back. You'll begin to crave progress. You'll begin to trust yourself in ways you never did before. You'll begin to act with purpose instead of reacting to fear. And that will change everything, not just how you feel but what you're able to create in your life. When fear shows up, it's not a sign to stop. It's a signal that something meaningful is in front of you, and you have the choice to either step back and stay the same, or lean in and become someone new. Choose growth. Choose movement. Choose the version of you that doesn't wait for comfort, doesn't need certainty, and doesn't ask for permission to rise. Every time you do, you become stronger, wiser, and closer to the life you were meant to live. Chapter 6. Surround yourself with people who demand your best. The people you allow into your life will either lift you toward your highest potential or quietly pull you away from it. Every conversation, every shared habit, every silent influence adds up. It's easy to think that your drive alone determines your outcome, but your environment is often the silent force shaping your standards. You absorb energy, attitudes, and expectations without realizing it. If you're surrounded by people who settle, you will too. If you're around those who push for more, you begin to question your own limits. Who you spend time with is not just a preference. It's a decision that builds or breaks your progress. There is a visible difference between people who challenge you and people who comfort your excuses. One leaves you sharper, the other leaves you stuck. Some friends won't call you out because they fear losing closeness. They'll let you lower your standards to maintain the peace. But real allies won't let you drift. They won't allow you to speak small about your future or stay idle when you're capable of more. Their presence demands action. Not through force but through example and energy. They move with clarity, so you do too. They train hard, so you raise your own pace. They think big, so you start thinking bigger. Your circle should be a mirror and a motivator. A mirror to show you who you're being, and a motivator to remind you of who you could become. When you're with the right people, they won't let your bad days turn into bad weeks. They'll challenge your excuses, not echo them. They'll notice when you're off track. They'll ask about your goals and expect real answers. Not because they're judging you, but because they believe in your capacity. These are the people who leave no room for mediocrity, not even in your thinking. Their standards are high because they know what's possible when you fully show up. If you find yourself surrounded by people who only seek comfort, ease, or validation, you have to pause and ask what that's doing to your ambition. There's nothing wrong with rest or support, But if you're never being pushed, you're being slowly pulled backward. Comfort is not the enemy, but staying there too long is, and some relationships are built entirely on keeping you comfortable, not challenged. If you want to rise, you have to be around those who are rising. If you want to think on a higher level, you need to hear higher conversations. Elevation doesn't happen alone. It's built through exposure to better thinking, better habits, and better demands. You don't need people who agree with everything you say. You need people who make you rethink what you say. You need people who tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. Someone who respects you will not let you waste your time. They'll question your laziness. They'll ask if you're really giving your best. They won't celebrate small talk when you have big goals. They won't stay silent when you're drifting. Their presence reminds you of your promises to yourself, and when you're tired, they don't let you forget what you're working for. The best people in your life will never be impressed by excuses. They've done hard things, so they know what's possible. They understand pain, so they know what's worth it. They don't measure your worth by your results, but by your effort. They'll stand with you when you fall, but they'll also make sure you rise again. These are not people who let you slide. They'll challenge you when you start lowering your standards. They'll remind you of who you were becoming before you started hiding again. Their honesty might sting in the moment, but it saves you from months of drifting. Not everyone will understand your ambition. Some will quietly resent it. Your growth can feel like a threat to those who haven't faced their own. They'll mock your discipline, question your pace, or label your vision as unrealistic. Don't let their limits become yours. Protect your energy by choosing your company with care. Time is too valuable to be spent around those who dilute your drive. You can love people from a distance without letting them steer your life. Kindness doesn't mean tolerance of energy that holds you back. Protect your momentum like it's sacred, because it is. When you find people who operate with vision, discipline, and clarity, hold on to them. They'll raise your standards without asking you to. They won't need to give you advice. Their consistency alone will challenge you to rise. Their presence keeps you grounded when you're tempted to take shortcuts. They're not loud about their success, but it shows in how they move. Being around them makes you realize how much more is possible. They normalize effort. They make high performance feel natural. And over time you stop settling for less because you've seen what full commitment looks like. Relationships should not drain you. They should wake you up. They should keep you accountable to the person you said you wanted to become. And sometimes that means walking away from people who no longer align with that version of you. It doesn't require drama. It doesn't mean they're bad, but it does mean you're serious about where you're headed. Growth requires difficult decisions, and often the most important one is deciding who gets access to your focus, your attention, your time. That choice shapes your daily experience. It shapes your habits. It shapes your future. Your environment doesn't just support your goals. It influences how high you aim in the first place. If you've never been around someone who expects more, you might believe average is good enough. But when you start spending time with people who move differently, you feel the difference. You start questioning your pace. You stop settling for shallow goals. You start showing up on time. You finish what you start. Not because someone told you to, but because that's the standard around you. That becomes your new normal. And that's when real transformation begins, not just in what you do, but in who you believe you are. What you tolerate in your circle becomes what you tolerate in yourself. That's why the people around you matter. You're not just choosing friendships. You're choosing habits. You're choosing energy. You're choosing your future. Stay close to people who remind you of what you're capable of, even when you forget. Keep company with those who see your potential and refuse to let you shrink. Their influence will carry you through moments when your own motivation fades. They will be the voices that echo in your mind when you're tempted to stop. And in that way, they become part of your discipline, part of your resilience, part of your growth. You don't have to walk this path alone, but you do have to walk it with intention. Surround yourself with people who demand your best, not because they want control over you, but because they want greatness for you. They want to see you rise, because they know how hard it is to rise alone. When you find those people, you'll realize they're not just part of your journey. They become the reason you keep pushing forward. They sharpen your edge. They fuel your belief. And in time you'll do the same for someone else. Chapter 7. Track your progress with honesty and full awareness. The path to growth is not built on effort alone. It's built on awareness. It's built on the willingness to look closely at what's working, what's not, and what needs to change. You can set goals, create routines, and work hard. But if you never stop to measure your progress honestly, you risk walking in circles. You might feel busy but not effective. You might be moving but not toward anything real. Self-deception is the enemy of progress. And the longer you avoid looking at the truth, the further you drift from the person you're trying to become. Tracking your progress means choosing clarity over comfort. It's easy to say, "I'm doing my best," but hard to prove it. It's tempting to assume you're on the right track because you feel tired or because time has passed. But real growth doesn't just happen with time. It happens with conscious effort that's measured, reviewed, and refined. You can't manage what you don't track. And you can't grow if you're afraid to see where you stand. Without data, your mind will fill in the gaps with whatever story protects your ego. Sometimes that story is a lie that keeps you stuck. Progress starts with a decision to be honest, not just with others, but with yourself. It takes courage to ask yourself the hard questions. Am I actually improving? Am I being consistent? Am I doing the work I promised myself I would? You can't build strength in the dark. You need light, unfiltered, direct, and sometimes uncomfortable. The moment you stop avoiding the truth is the moment you regain power over your future, because now, instead of hoping things will improve, you can make them improve. You stop depending on motivation, and you start depending on facts. Honest tracking doesn't mean judgment, it means clarity. It's not about beating yourself up for falling short. It's about learning what's slowing you down so you can adjust. Too often, people confuse accountability with punishment. But growth isn't about shame, it's about ownership. You can't improve something if you pretend it's fine. And you can't break patterns you're unwilling to admit exist. Looking at your habits, your output, your discipline, this is how you become better. Not through fantasy, but through facts. Not through denial, but through detail. Start by defining what success looks like in your terms, not vague ideas, clear, measurable benchmarks. If you say you want to read more, how many pages per day? If you want to get stronger, what's your goal in reps or weight? If you want to be more focused, how much uninterrupted work are you aiming for? Vague intentions lead to vague results. When you track specific actions, you create structure. You remove the guesswork. You see patterns. You notice what derails you. You realize when you're drifting. And most importantly, you stay conscious of the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Tracking forces reflection. It demands that you slow down and ask yourself, is this working? It turns your routine into a feedback loop. Without this, you can repeat the same mistakes over and over without noticing. You can work all day and wonder why you're still stuck. But when you review your effort with clear eyes, you start to see why results aren't showing up. Maybe you're starting too late. Maybe you're distracted too often. Maybe you're avoiding the tasks that matter. When you see it on paper, it becomes obvious. And when it's obvious, it's fixable. Awareness gives you control. Instead of being at the mercy of how you feel each day, you operate with data. You no longer guess what's wrong. You know, and when you know, you can improve. You can stop wasting energy on what doesn't work. You can double down on what does. You can build momentum from real results, not just good intentions. There's a confidence that comes from seeing the numbers improve. It tells you your work is moving the needle. It makes discipline feel meaningful. It gives you proof that you're not just trying, you're transforming. The key is consistency. You can't track progress once a month and expect clarity. It has to become a habit. A simple 5-minute review at the end of each day can reshape your direction. What did I do well? What needs work? What do I need to change tomorrow? These questions create a rhythm of reflection. They keep your focus fresh. They stop days from blending together. Most people wait too long to adjust. They wait until failure feels permanent. But when you check in daily, you catch issues early. You steer your path in real time. Progress isn't always obvious. Some days you won't feel like anything changed. That's why tracking matters. It shows you growth that emotions can't. You might feel stuck, but your records might tell a different story. They show you that even when motivation dips, your habits held steady. They remind you that discipline works, even on days when it doesn't feel like it. This quiet evidence builds resilience. It becomes your anchor when doubt shows up. It reminds you that you're not lost. You're just in a season where results are still compounding under the surface. There's a deep kind of peace that comes from knowing exactly where you stand. It removes confusion. It ends the guessing game. You know how much effort you gave. You know where you slipped. You know what to improve next. There's no need to wait for outside validation. Your progress is visible in your own notes, charts, journals, or spreadsheets. It becomes part of your identity, someone who is aware, responsible, and relentless about becoming better. You stop chasing perfection and start chasing precision. Not flawless days, just consistent, measured improvement. No one else can track this for you. It's your job to stay awake to your own process. Others can encourage you, but they can't see what you see. They don't know your distractions, your triggers, your missed opportunities. Only you can measure those. Only you can adjust them, and only you will live with the results. That's why honest tracking is a form of self-respect. It says, I care enough about my growth to be fully present for it. It means you're not just going through the motions. You're steering your direction with intention. You will slip. You will fall short. That's part of the process. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. When you track your efforts honestly, even your setbacks become fuel. You understand why they happened. You learn what to avoid. You see how to recover faster next time. Every mistake becomes data, not identity, and every small win becomes proof that you're capable of more. This is how progress builds, not in giant leaps but in honest daily effort that's reviewed and refined over time. At the end of each week, look back. What did you promise yourself? What did you follow through on? What did you let slide? This simple habit is more powerful than any motivational speech. It grounds you in facts. It prepares you for better weeks ahead. And over time, it builds a version of you that doesn't need outside pressure to stay on track. You become your own coach, your own standard, your own reminder that the life you want is not created in hopes and dreams but in small accountable actions tracked with full awareness. Chapter 8. Turn failure into feedback and learn without excuses. Failure is often seen as something to avoid or to fear, but it holds a far greater purpose when viewed through a different lens. Instead of treating failure as a dead end, it must be understood as an essential tool for growth. This shift in perspective is crucial because failure, when embraced correctly, becomes feedback, a clear message that points you toward what to improve, change, or refine. Learning to turn failure into feedback requires a mindset that is open, disciplined, and free of excuses. This approach ensures that every setback serves as a stepping stone toward success, rather than a stumbling block that stops progress. Every person who has succeeded in any field has experienced failure. The difference between those who thrive and those who falter is how they respond to it. When failure arrives, it can trigger feelings of disappointment, frustration, or shame. These feelings are natural, but they do not have to define the outcome. By removing excuses and blame, you reclaim control. You stop giving away your power to external circumstances or people and start looking inward. The moment you accept full responsibility for the result, regardless of its nature, you open the door to learning and growth. The first step in turning failure into feedback is to look at the facts objectively. What happened exactly? What were the actions taken and where did they fall short? This process demands honesty and a willingness to detach emotionally just enough to analyze the situation clearly. It's important not to dwell in self-pity or harsh judgment, but to focus on understanding the mechanics of what went wrong. This is the foundation of effective feedback, knowing the truth without distortion or denial. Once the facts are clear, the next step is to ask specific questions that reveal the lessons within the failure. What could have been done differently? What was within your control? And what wasn't? Were there signs you missed early on? Which habits, skills, or strategies need improvement? By breaking down the failure into manageable components, you gain actionable insights. This process turns vague feelings of "I messed up" into clear steps for improvement. It transforms disappointment into a powerful learning experience. Excuses are the enemy of growth. They act as barriers that keep you from learning deeply. When excuses enter the conversation, the mind shifts focus away from responsibility to justification. "It wasn't my fault," "I didn't have enough time," or "the circumstances were unfair," are common refrains that halt progress. Excuses create a false sense of relief, but in reality, they keep you stuck in the same patterns. To learn without excuses means to face reality as it is, and to commit to changing what you can change. This commitment to learning demands humility and patience. It's easy to want immediate results and to become discouraged when failure disrupts the path. But real growth is slow and requires persistence. Embracing failure as feedback means welcoming the discomfort of being imperfect. It means understanding that mastery comes from trial, error, and continuous adjustment. This mindset is one of resilience. It is the knowledge that failure is not a reflection of worth, but a natural part of progress. It also means developing the skill of self-reflection. After each setback, take time to journal or meditate on what happened. Write down your honest thoughts without censoring yourself. What emotions did the failure bring up? How did you respond in the moment? What might you do differently next time? This practice anchors your learning and makes it concrete. It helps prevent repeating the same mistakes and builds a deeper understanding of your growth process. Another powerful aspect of turning failure into feedback is seeking input from others. Sometimes our perspective is limited by our own biases or blind spots. Asking for constructive criticism from trusted mentors, colleagues, or friends can reveal insights you may have missed. When receiving feedback from others, it's important to listen without defensiveness. Instead of reacting emotionally, try to extract the useful information. Feedback from external sources complements your own reflection and enriches your learning. It is also essential to remember that failure does not have to define your identity. One failed project, one mistake, or one wrong decision does not make you a failure. Separating your self-worth from outcomes protects you from discouragement. It allows you to see failure as temporary and specific, not permanent or personal. This distinction creates space for compassion toward yourself, which is necessary for sustainable growth. Kindness in moments of failure replenishes motivation and fuels future efforts. To truly benefit from failure, transform the lessons learned into a concrete plan of action. Identify what needs to change and how you will implement those changes moving forward. Set clear, small goals that focus on correcting errors or building new skills. These goals must be realistic and measurable. Incremental improvements are the most reliable path out of failure. By focusing on what you can do today, you maintain momentum and rebuild confidence. Learning without excuses also means accepting that some factors are beyond your control. This acceptance is not resignation but clarity. Distinguish between what you can influence and what you cannot. This focus prevents wasted energy on things that won't change and directs your effort to what truly matters. It encourages strategic thinking and smarter decision-making. You become more efficient and less frustrated by external setbacks. Over time, developing the habit of turning failure into feedback rewires your brain. It creates a mindset that is alert, curious, and solution-focused. Instead of fearing mistakes, you anticipate learning from them. You grow comfortable with discomfort because you understand it's part of the process. This mindset leads to greater confidence because you know you can handle setbacks without losing direction. You become adaptable, able to pivot and improve regardless of circumstances. This skill also builds resilience, which is crucial for long-term success. Life will always present challenges, but those who thrive are the ones who see setbacks as information, not obstacles. They bounce back faster and with greater clarity. They maintain forward motion because they have a system for converting failure into progress. This system protects them from discouragement and exhaustion. When failure is no longer a threat but a teacher, your entire approach to challenges changes. You take more risks because the cost of failure is simply knowledge gained. You experiment more freely because you know missteps are part of the journey. This freedom enhances creativity and innovation. You become less controlled by fear and more driven by curiosity and growth. One practical exercise to reinforce this mindset is to create a failure log. Each time something doesn't go as planned, write down what happened, what you learned, and what you will do next time. Review this log regularly to observe patterns and celebrate the lessons hidden in setbacks. This practice makes learning deliberate and consistent. It reminds you that failure is not the opposite of success but a vital component of it. Ultimately, turning failure into feedback is about mastery over your response. It's the realization that success is less about avoiding mistakes and more about using every experience to improve. It requires courage to face failure honestly and humility to accept where change is needed. It demands discipline to act on lessons without excuses. But the rewards are profound: a mindset that propels you forward, a resilience that sustains you, and a path of continuous self-improvement that leads to lasting success. The transformation begins the moment you stop fearing failure and start inviting it as a necessary step in your journey. This change is powerful because it frees you from the paralysis of perfectionism and the trap of blame. It allows you to own your growth fully and take control of your destiny. The more you embrace failure as feedback, the closer you move toward the life you want to create. Chapter 9. Master your habits by repeating small wins daily. Mastering habits is the quiet force behind every lasting change. The most successful people in the world aren't those who rely on bursts of motivation or sheer willpower alone. They are those who have learned to create and sustain small, consistent actions over time. Habits shape reality more than any grand plan because they determine the quality of each day and build momentum toward long-term goals. The secret lies in focusing on small wins repeated daily, transforming ordinary moments into the foundation of extraordinary progress. Changing habits is often misunderstood as a massive, sweeping overhaul. The truth is quite the opposite. Real mastery begins with tiny, manageable actions that fit naturally into daily life. These small victories, no matter how insignificant they seem at first, accumulate to create a powerful force. When these small wins become automatic, they release mental energy previously spent on decision-making and self-control. This efficiency frees the mind to focus on bigger challenges and creativity. Habit mastery is about creating that effortless flow where good behaviors become the default setting. One key insight is to start with habits that are so easy you can't say no. The barrier to starting is often the biggest hurdle. If a habit feels overwhelming, the brain resists. Instead, design habits that require minimal effort but direct you toward your goal. For example, if building fitness is the aim, begin with 2 minutes of stretching every morning rather than an hour of exercise. This tiny commitment removes excuses and builds confidence. Over time, these small acts naturally extend into longer or more intense routines without the pressure to do it all at once. Consistency is the backbone of habit mastery. Showing up daily, even if it feels minor, is what separates success from failure. Missing one day doesn't ruin progress, but missing many starts a chain of defeat. Focus on building a streak of repeated action. Each day you follow through, you reinforce the habit loop in your brain. Trigger, action, reward. The brain craves routine, and once a habit is embedded, it runs automatically, requiring far less conscious effort. Patience is essential here. The slow build-up of a habit might feel invisible at first, but trust in the power of repetition. Tracking progress is a practical way to maintain this consistency. When you mark your daily wins, no matter how small, you create a visual representation of your efforts. This evidence fuels motivation and accountability. Seeing a chain of successful days encourages continuation because no one wants to break the streak. Tracking also provides feedback on what works and what doesn't, allowing for subtle adjustments. Over time, this record becomes a testimony of your discipline and a reminder of your capacity to grow. Understanding the triggers that lead to certain habits is another important step. Habits don't emerge randomly. They are responses to specific cues. These can be time of day, emotional states, environments, or preceding actions. By identifying these triggers, you can intentionally design your environment to support positive habits and reduce temptations. For example, placing a book by your bedside can cue reading before sleep. Changing the environment simplifies the habit process because it reduces reliance on willpower and decision-making. Rewards play a vital role in cementing habits. The brain learns through associations, so providing immediate satisfaction after a habit increases the likelihood it will stick. These rewards don't have to be elaborate. A simple feeling of accomplishment or a moment of self-acknowledgement is enough to reinforce the behavior. Over time, the positive feelings connected to the habit become internalized, and the habit sustains itself without external motivation. This internal reward system is what makes a habit last beyond the initial phase of effort. It's important to embrace the idea that setbacks are part of habit formation. No one forms perfect habits overnight. Occasional lapses or off days happen, and they don't erase progress. Rather than using these moments as reasons to quit, view them as learning opportunities. Analyze what caused the disruption and adjust accordingly. Maybe the trigger was missing, or the reward wasn't satisfying enough. With each reset, your understanding deepens, making your approach stronger. Compassion toward yourself during setbacks prevents discouragement and keeps momentum alive. Another practical technique is habit stacking, linking a new habit to an already established one. This method leverages existing routines to introduce new actions effortlessly. For instance, after brushing your teeth, you might immediately do a brief mindfulness exercise. The old habit acts as a reliable anchor, making the new habit easier to remember and perform. Habit stacking reduces friction and creates natural flow in daily activities. It transforms your day into a series of productive, connected moments rather than isolated tasks. Over time, as small wins build into bigger habits, you'll notice a shift in identity. Habits don't just change what you do, they change who you are. Repeating positive actions daily reprograms your self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone disciplined, capable, and committed. This identity shift creates powerful internal motivation because you act not just to achieve results, but to be consistent with who you believe you are. The deeper this alignment, the more effortless and enduring your habits become. Discipline grows alongside habit mastery. While motivation fluctuates, habits provide a steady structure that supports progress regardless of mood or external circumstances. By focusing on small wins, discipline is exercised gently every day rather than forced through rare, intense efforts. This consistent discipline builds mental toughness, allowing you to face larger challenges with confidence. Habit mastery is the soil in which resilience grows. The impact of mastering habits extends beyond personal achievement. When you improve your habits, you influence the quality of your relationships, work, health, and overall well-being. Small positive changes in how you manage your time, respond to stress, or communicate with others ripple outward. These improvements multiply, creating a life marked by growth rather than stagnation. Your environment begins to reflect your new standards, attracting opportunities aligned with your evolving self. In practical terms, begin by choosing one or two small habits to focus on. Be clear about the action, the trigger, and the reward. Track your progress daily and adjust when necessary. Celebrate every win, no matter how small. Recognize that mastery is a journey of continuous refinement, not a destination reached overnight. With this approach, small daily wins become the foundation of unstoppable momentum. Mastery over habits unlocks the door to sustainable success. It is the slow, steady engine that drives transformation. Rather than waiting for motivation or willpower to strike, habit mastery creates a system that works with the natural rhythms of the mind. Each repeated small win adds a brick to the structure of your future self. Through patience, consistency, and strategic action, you build a life where success is the inevitable result of disciplined daily choices. Chapter 10. Commit to learning something useful every single day. The commitment to learning something useful every single day is a powerful choice that transforms ordinary living into a life of constant growth and purpose. It is not about overwhelming yourself with endless information or chasing every new trend, but rather about dedicating yourself to acquiring knowledge and skills that genuinely enhance your life, deepen your understanding, and sharpen your abilities. This daily practice of learning becomes the engine of personal evolution, enabling you to navigate challenges with wisdom, seize opportunities with confidence, and build a future that reflects your highest potential. Learning every day fosters a mindset of curiosity and openness, which is essential for progress. The world constantly shifts. New ideas emerge, technology evolves, and circumstances change. Without the habit of continual learning, it is easy to fall behind or become stagnant. When you commit to learning, you cultivate a habit of staying relevant and adaptable. Each day you open your mind to new perspectives, enriching your thinking and expanding the lens through which you see the world. This openness not only enhances your intellectual growth, but also nurtures emotional resilience by encouraging flexibility in your approach to life's complexities. Practical application is the heartbeat of useful learning. Simply gathering information is not enough. What matters is how you integrate that knowledge into your daily routines, decisions, and interactions. Choose to focus on lessons that are immediately applicable, whether it's improving communication skills, mastering a new task at work, understanding emotional triggers, or learning techniques for better health. This applied learning creates a feedback loop where knowledge leads to action, and action leads to deeper insight. Over time, this cycle builds competence and confidence, reinforcing the value of learning as a tool for empowerment rather than an abstract pursuit. To make daily learning sustainable, it is crucial to set realistic, focused goals. Instead of trying to absorb vast amounts of information at once, commit to small, manageable chunks of learning that fit naturally into your schedule. This could be as simple as reading a few pages of a book, listening to a short podcast, practicing a skill for 15 minutes, or reflecting on a new idea. The key is consistency and intentionality. Showing up daily to nurture your mind creates momentum and makes learning an integral part of your lifestyle rather than an occasional task. Curating quality sources is another important factor. In a world flooded with information, discernment is necessary to avoid distraction and misinformation. Seek out materials from credible experts, timeless wisdom, and practical experiences that resonate with your values and goals. This selective approach ensures that what you learn is relevant, enriching, and trustworthy. It also saves time and energy, allowing you to dive deeper into subjects that truly matter rather than skimming superficial content. Embracing a learner's humility is essential in this journey. Every day offers a chance to acknowledge what you don't know, and this awareness is a strength, not a weakness. The willingness to admit gaps in knowledge opens the door to genuine growth. It cultivates a mindset that values progress over perfection and views mistakes and misunderstandings as natural parts of learning. This humility fosters patience and reduces frustration, making the process of learning more enjoyable and sustainable. Reflection enhances the power of daily learning. Taking moments to pause and consider what you have absorbed helps solidify understanding and reveals practical insights. Reflection can be as simple as journaling key takeaways, discussing new ideas with others, or mentally reviewing how a lesson applies to your current challenges. This practice deepens retention and transforms passive intake into active growth. It also strengthens self-awareness, an essential component for mastering any area of life. Learning something useful each day also builds a reservoir of knowledge that supports problem-solving and innovation. When you consistently expand your skill set and understanding, you develop the ability to connect ideas in novel ways and approach obstacles from multiple angles. This mental agility empowers you to adapt when plans change or difficulties arise. The accumulation of knowledge equips you with tools to handle complexity with confidence, turning challenges into opportunities. The impact of daily learning extends beyond intellectual development. It enriches relationships and social interactions, expanding your understanding of human behavior, communication techniques, or cultural perspectives improves empathy and connection. When you bring new ideas and thoughtful insights to conversations, you contribute value and foster mutual respect. This growth strengthens your social environment, creating a positive feedback loop where learning and connection nourish each other. Committing to learning every day also nurtures discipline and focus. The act of dedicating time and attention to growth trains the mind to resist distraction and prioritize what matters. Over time, this discipline spills over into other areas, enhancing productivity, decision-making, and emotional regulation. It creates a virtuous cycle where consistent learning fuels greater self-control, which in turn supports more effective learning. This synergy magnifies personal development and accelerates progress toward your goals. It is important to recognize that learning is not a race but a lifelong journey. Some days will be rich with insight, others may feel slow or unproductive. The value lies in the steady commitment to the process, trusting that growth accumulates quietly beneath the surface. Avoid measuring success by immediate results or comparing yourself to others. Instead, focus on the incremental improvements that build resilience, wisdom, and skill over time. This patient dedication transforms ordinary days into stepping stones toward extraordinary achievement. When challenges arise, learning becomes a source of strength and guidance. Rather than reacting with frustration or defeat, those who commit to learning use difficulties as catalysts for discovery. Each problem presents an opportunity to gather new information, develop new skills, and refine strategies. This proactive stance transforms adversity into a teacher and failure into a foundation for future success. It shifts the mindset from victimhood to empowerment, fueling perseverance and hope. The habit of daily learning also enriches your sense of purpose and fulfillment. Engaging with new ideas and skills stimulates the mind and ignites passion. It fosters a sense of progression and achievement that nourishes self-esteem and motivation. This dynamic engagement with growth prevents stagnation and boredom, keeping life vibrant and meaningful. The continuous expansion of your capabilities also opens doors to new possibilities and experiences, broadening the horizon of what is achievable. Practical steps to implement this commitment include setting a specific time each day dedicated to learning, whether in the morning to start the day energized or in the evening to reflect and prepare for tomorrow. Use tools such as books, audio resources, online courses, or mentorship to diversify your learning modes and keep engagement high. Journaling what you learn reinforces memory and clarifies understanding. Regularly reviewing your progress helps maintain focus and adjust goals as needed. Surrounding yourself with a community of learners or mentors can also enhance motivation and accountability. The rewards of committing to learning every day are profound and far-reaching. It cultivates a mindset that embraces change and complexity with confidence. It creates a foundation of knowledge and skill that supports all areas of life. It strengthens character by fostering discipline, humility, and resilience. Most importantly, it empowers you to shape your own destiny by continuously evolving toward your best self. The simple yet profound choice to learn something useful every day becomes a powerful habit that defines your trajectory. It is an investment that yields exponential returns, enriching your mind, your character, and your life. By nurturing this commitment, you unlock the potential for continuous improvement, turning the ordinary passage of time into a meaningful journey of growth and achievement. This daily dedication to learning is the cornerstone of a life well lived and a future fully realized.